As this story opens, one fact changes everything. Prince Harry is once again standing on British ground. Not for ceremony. Not for compassion. Not to mend fractures he helped shatter. He didn't return out of longing or loyalty. He returned because circumstances left him no alternative. This is the same man who once stared into a lens and painted his own bloodline as villains. The same man who inked lucrative streaming contracts while dismantling the very system that shaped him. The same man who rejected security, tradition, and the unspoken code of royal restraint. And yet, here he is again. When someone who scorches every path behind them suddenly races back toward the flames, it's never because peace has been restored. It's because control has slipped. Something has broken in the shadows. Something too dangerous to be managed by West Coast handlers or polished press releases. Whatever is unfolding hasn't reached headlines yet, but Harry knows it's close. And he knows when it detonates, there will be no spin powerful enough to contain it. This isn't about image repair. This isn't about legacy. This is about staying afloat. Because the very force Harry spent years condemning may now be the only shield strong enough to stop what's coming. And the spark that set this panic in motion doesn't trace back to London or Montecito, but to a locked cell thousands of miles away, deep inside a Florida prison. Ghislaine Maxwell is now locked into a 20-year federal sentence. Her network has collapsed. Her reach has vanished. Her ending is already decided. And that finality is precisely what makes her volatile. When someone still controls leverage, they stay silent to preserve it. When someone still has protection, they keep their mouth shut to stay alive. Maxwell has neither left. And that changes everything. According to multiple accounts echoed throughout this narrative, she has started revisiting the past. Not with coded language. Not with careful omissions. But with names. Specific names. Individuals who circulated inside the rarefied social universe she helped curate alongside Jeffrey Epstein. For years, Maxwell wasn't merely attending rooms, she was managing them. She decided who belonged, who gained proximity, and who remained unseen. She understood the habits of powerful men, where they traveled, how they relaxed, and most critically, who was placed within arm's reach. Now confined to a cell with nothing left to protect, silence offers her no advantage. And when someone like that chooses to speak, the consequences don't unfold in headlines first. They ripple through hushed phone calls, urgent closed-door meetings, flights arranged quietly before dawn. One of the names allegedly surfacing in those conversations is triggering alarm bells far from London straight into Montecito. Not the polished Duchess persona. Not the charitable branding. But an earlier version of Meghan Markle from a chapter before any of that existed. To understand how these circles intersected, you have to understand Soho House. On the surface, it appears benign. A fashionable members-only club for creatives, sleek decor, artistic crowds, a networking haven for filmmakers, actors, and designers. But beneath the aesthetic, it functioned as something else entirely. Soho House was a corridor, a discrete bridge between worlds that rarely crossed in public. Hollywood and finance. New wealth and entrenched power. Faces everyone recognized and figures who preferred obscurity. According to sources, Meghan was flown internationally for Soho House openings, including a notable event in Istanbul in 2015. She wasn't the headline attraction. She wasn't the reason photographers were present. She was what insiders quietly call social infrastructure. That doesn't mean insignificant. It means strategic. Someone who energizes a room. Someone who fills space. Someone who helps create the environment influential people expect when they arrive. And these openings weren't casual gatherings. They drew men of means who prized discretion, individuals adjacent to royalty, financiers who understood that real leverage isn't built on red carpets. It's built behind closed doors where nothing is documented. What quietly raised eyebrows at the time was the lifestyle that accompanied this access. International flights. Luxury accommodations. A pace of movement that didn't neatly align with a cable television paycheck. No one challenged it. No one made accusations. In those spaces, questions aren't asked, observations are simply filed away. Years later, when that same woman stands on a palace balcony as a duchess, those memories don't fade. They reorganize themselves. Because Soho House wasn't just where Meghan circulated. It was also where other spheres overlapped. Spheres linked to Epstein's orbit. Spheres brushing against British royalty. Spheres that once felt disconnected but now appear uncomfortably close. And once you recognize how those rooms operated, the fairy tale begins to look less like fate and more like careful placement. Long before timelines were scrutinized or photographs dissected, something quieter had already registered. People noticed and said nothing. According to this narrative, colleagues from Meghan's television days privately questioned how her lifestyle functioned. Not from envy. Not from rumor-mongering. From simple arithmetic. Constant travel. High-end stays. Relentless mobility. This wasn't the kind of travel you take once in a while. It was a way of life, and it didn't align with what a supporting actress on a cable series would normally be able to sustain at that time. No accusations were ever made. In those environments, accusations would have crossed an unspoken line. Instead, people did what they always do when something feels off. They remembered. Because memory doesn't rush. It doesn't demand explanations on the spot. It waits. It stores details. And years later, when that same woman is standing beside a prince, memory starts connecting dots it once left untouched. At first glance, it might be tempting to treat Meghan's story as an exception. But once you widen the lens, a pattern begins to emerge. Princess Sofia of Sweden had a publicly documented past in glamour modeling and elite party scenes, with sources alleging proximity to Epstein-linked social environments as early as 2005. Norway's Mette-Marit issued a public apology in 2019 for maintaining a friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, calling it a lapse in judgment. Both women married into royalty. Both carried histories that were inconvenient. And both pasts were quietly neutralized once crowns entered the equation. This isn't about moral judgment. It's about understanding how power structures operate. Royal families don't erase the past, they manage it. They absorb it. They bury it under protocol, pageantry, and silence. And once that pattern becomes visible, Meghan's trajectory stops feeling anomalous. It starts feeling familiar. Then comes the moment when speculation hardens into something more serious. During the civil case brought by Virginia Giuffre, the woman whose testimony effectively dismantled Prince Andrew's public standing, Meghan Markle's name nearly crossed the threshold into the courtroom. Not as a defendant, as a witness. That difference matters. Witnesses aren't being charged. They're people believed to have seen, heard, or been present during moments that matter. According to sources tied to the proceedings, her name surfaced for 3 specific reasons. First, she resided in the United States, making jurisdiction uncomplicated. Second, she was described as a close associate of Prince Andrew during a defined window, not a distant social contact. And third, she was believed to have moved within Jeffrey Epstein's social orbit during the very years when abuse was actively taking place. That isn't rumor. That's legal calculus. In the end, she was never called. But the fact that her name reached that level of scrutiny changed the equation. It meant investigators with subpoena authority reviewed her background and concluded she might possess information worth pursuing. And now, with Ghislaine Maxwell allegedly breaking her silence, those unanswered questions don't fade. They multiply. Which brings the story back to the man who abandoned California for the one institution he insisted he'd never rely on again. Prince Harry didn't return to the UK seeking reconciliation. He returned because the royal machine knows how to survive scandals that don't erupt in headlines, but unfold in courtrooms. They have attorneys. They have intermediaries. They have centuries of experience shrinking crises before they detonate. Harry rejected that system. He labeled it abusive. He called it corrosive. He dismantled it on camera. And now, for the first time, he may need it more than he ever imagined. Because if Ghislaine Maxwell continues to speak, this doesn't end with gossip blogs or opinion columns. It ends with sworn testimony. And there is one question that eclipses all others. What did Harry know, and when did he know it? If he was aware of his wife's past, then he helped shield it. If he wasn't, then he walked blindly into a risk that now threatens everything he's built. Either way, the fairy tale has collapsed. This isn't envy. This isn't tabloid obsession. This is about who was present, who witnessed what, and how long silence protected influence. The past is finished staying quiet, and Harry understands that now.